All right, my name is Patrick Kernan.
My name is Tiffany Mulhern.
My name is Carrie Fitzsimmons.
My name is Stephen Bernetti. I am 48 years old. I live in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I am an emergency medicine physician.
Can you explain a specific news story that you found impactful to your childhood?
Probably what was most impactful to me was the 3 Mile Island. I was going to call it a catastrophe, but nobody was killed. 3 Mile Island potential nuclear meltdown. I believe I was in 5th grade when the 3 Mile Island, there's the possibility of a nuclear leak, which would have resulted in a lot of nuclear fallout across all of Pennsylvania. I was at school. I was vividly, Valley View Elementary School. I remember exactly where I was sitting, and we were watching the event on one of the old box-style televisions. The nuclear tower was seen on the video with the newscaster, split screen talking.
And would you say that it sort of affected you into your adulthood?
I think listening to the event and listening to the potential consequences of a nuclear meltdown, for the first time in our life, let us see that we were mortal. When you're 12 years old, you don't think of dying, or you don't think of a catastrophic disaster that's going to kill millions of people. And that kind of resonated with me throughout my life, especially growing up through the Cold War with the United States and the USSR. It's always something that was always in the back of my mind, a potential nuclear disaster.
I'm a first grade teacher in the area. I went to school a little bit later in life, and I love my job. I love working with kids. The story I remember most as a child was in middle school. Christy McAuliffe was the first teacher to go into space, and I wanted to be a teacher, so I was watching it and I was all about it. And I remember watching the space shuttle blow up on the news, and it scared me. I saw my teachers crying, which people who I never thought would cry. I saw them all crying, so it kind of stayed with me, I think, my whole life. I remember it being on the cover of the newspaper, the local newspaper. I remember them playing it over and over and over on the news and analyzing, what happened and looking closely at it. I just remember they played it and played it and played it and played it to the point where I didn't want to see it anymore. It affected me a little bit into my adulthood. I think maybe subconsciously even. I'm just a very, very cautious person, and I don't know if that's what made me cautious, in the sense, like, I love doing new things, but I'm not in any hurry to jump out of any planes or doing things like that. So it kind of, when you're in middle school or 7th, you don't think about dying. You don't think that it's ever going to happen to you. And I think that kind of jolted me into, wait a minute.
I'm 27 years old. I live in Shawneetown, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and I'm a tattoo artist.
That's perfect.
A really important news story when I was younger was the Oklahoma City bombing. I think I was in 1st grade. I saw the live coverage of it as it was happening, kind of unfolding. My mom was going to take me outside to play, and she was like, hold on 1 second, I have to keep watching the news. And she was like, go out by yourself, and I didn't want to. So I stayed in with her, and she thought it was going to be a 10-minute long thing, like there was a car bomb, but then she realized how bad it was. So she sat all day and watched it, and we watched, bloody people and ambulances and all this terrible stuff, and I'm in 1st grade, but my mom was so, caught up in all of it that she couldn't, take her eyes off the screen. So it was the first kind of real thing that I saw on the news that actually I understood that was scary. And I saw, my mom was crying. She was really upset about the whole thing. So then I thought I should be upset too. So I started to get stressed out, and I was asking her questions like, why does this happen? People can just do this to other people, they don't deserve it, and it just happens one day. So that's where the whole thing really bothered me, because I didn't like the idea of just someone just taking your life away when you can't do anything about it. There was nothing those people could have done to prevent that.
Would you say that it sort of affected you into your adulthood?
Absolutely. Kind of every scary event in the news after that, I kind of took along with me. They've always, as I've gotten older, I've kind of been well, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen kind of thing. But things like that, 9/11, even Columbine, all those things, there's nothing those people could have done differently. It was just their day, and that's always stressed me out a little bit.
Briefly describe your name,
You want me to describe my name?
All right.
It starts
say
with
your
a
name,
P.
Say your age, and then briefly describe what you're all about.
I'm 20 years old, and I'm a broadcast journalism student at Marywood University.
Can you explain a specific news story that you found impactful to your childhood?
I think one that really impacted me was 9/11. What happened was that, like, you could just tell that something had gone wrong, and my parents came to the school to pick me up just in case. And I remember I was in the office and I saw on the TV there was, like, you saw the towers with the smoke pouring out of them and everything. The overall energy of the school was just down that day because they hadn't announced anything to us then. I think it was overall just like a sense of anxiety because, like, when you're that young, you don't think of just like the overall loss of life or anything like that. I remember being nervous that it would happen again and closer to home.
And do you think it affected you into your adulthood?
Kind of, sort of, in a weird sort of way. I don't know. I don't really think about it all the time, and it's sort of weird to when I see like 9/11 in the history books and stuff like that. It's sort of weird to think like, oh, this is a major thing that happened that I lived through, because up until then, it's sort of like history is just something that happened before I was born, but this is like real life.